I've noticed this pattern in a lot of media, and I find it pretty obnoxious. It's you write an incredibly powerful character, sort of for the wow factor of, wow, look how powerful this character is. That's incredible. And then you spend the rest of that media's time writing reasons why they can't use their power to their full potential. It happens a lot in comic book movies and stuff with superpowers. And you pretty much have to take it as a given if you watch Star Wars. It's like, this character can shoot lightning. This character can jump super fast. This character can have super speed. This character can read minds and make people do what he says. It's like, anytime a Jedi does anything, you have to look at them and be like, why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? Why didn't you do this? Why didn't you force push? Why didn't you throw your lightsaber? Like, there's so much shit a Jedi can do. You pretty much have to turn that part of your brain off if you're going to enjoy Star Wars. But in these other medias where the characters have sort of like a more narrow scope of powers, they just do like one thing. That's where it really stands out, like a sorsum, like a foursome that sticks out like a foursome. I have a lisp sometimes. So when I first remember this sticking out to me a lot in comic book shit is heroes. So they made a few characters there that were just ridiculous, but the one that really sticks out to me was Hiro Nakamura. He could stop time travel, and he could kill people during his time travel. Like, he could stop time, cut your head off, and then resume time. So at any stage of storytelling, you pretty much have to ask yourself, oh, why doesn't Hiro just stop time, teleport to where the bad guy is, and stab him in the fucking heart? And that's what happens when you write characters like this. It's not realistic for you to make a story because you can always just kill everybody with this guy's powers. So they write sort of innate problems in some of these characters. For instance, Hiro was kind of a loser, kind of a pussy. He was really insecure. He didn't know when to kill people. Like, there's this one time where he froze Sylar. Hiro was gonna go kill him, and then Sylar just sort of slowly realized what was going on and then made him unstick time somehow. So he was basically a nincompoop that can't really control his powers. So that's why that was sort of the innate thing about his character that made it okay for him to be so fucking powerful. Because if they gave that power to, like, Sylar, then try to write something in the story that Sylar doesn't like happening. Anything can happen, and if he doesn't like it, he'll just stop time, go back in time. He can do anything. But so they have to give these powers to a nincompoop so that you can just pretty much say, oh, he didn't do that because he's just kind of a clumsy buffoon. How convenient. And speaking of heroes, Sylar was starting to turn into a Jedi at one point. He had collected so many powers from the other heroes. Sylar was basically a character sort of like Rogue, in that he could absorb other people's powers, but in Heroes, he would have to kill them to take their power. By the end of season 1, you're like, he's got a power to get out of every situation, and they have to have an answer for why he doesn't use it. And they just ended up sort of giving him a power. He would use it in like one episode, and then we would never really see the power again. It's sort of like the writers saying, I hope they don't remember that he has, this power and that other power, because then we would have to write a reason why he doesn't do it. There's also another character who was pretty much also Rogue, only way better than Sylar's, because instead of having to kill them and dissect them to get their powers, Peter just has to be in a room with them, just stand in proximity to them, and he can just have their power. The person wouldn't even know he took their power. So by the end of like season 1 or season 2, Peter's got so many fucking powers, you couldn't write a story to save your life with this character because he's basically God. Both Peter and Sylar don't really have stupid character reasons why they wouldn't use their powers. So obviously the writers were forced to erase them, and that's what they did for Sylar. In season 2, they took away all his powers, and he had to gain new ones the same way he was getting them before, but he had to do it all over again. And at some point, Peter has his power taken away from him, and when he gets it back, it's like a lower version of the power. Now he can only hold one power at a time, and he only gets it when he touches other people, and he loses it when he gets a new power. He loses the old power. So he's one power at a time guy instead of having countless powers. So those were like long arcs of characters that had a long part of the show dedicated to them, and the writers slowly realized over time that we need to write in a reason for them to not be so powerful down the line. But the biggest sort of obvious blunder where they fucked this up on Heroes was when the cheerleader character, who is basically Hero's version of Wolverine, it's revealed at some point that her blood can revive the dead. One drop of blood brought a guy back from life who got shot in the fucking head, and they never used that power again in the show. They used it one time, and then they like mentioned it at some point when one character died, just so that they're like, hey, we do have an excuse for why she can't do that, because, you know, they're too far away. It's like, put me on a plane. And so basically every other time in the show when someone died, you had to ask yourself, okay, why don't they get the cheerleader who's their best friend and take one drop of her blood and revive the character? But I guess the writers realized really fast that was a very stupid idea, and they forgot about it. They just never did it again. They never mentioned it.
And that wraps up everything I wanted to say about Heroes. It's funny, I didn't even plan on talking about Heroes. This is an X-Men video. And Heroes is such an obvious ripoff of X-Men, though, so it's funny that they have even my gripes with them in common. But before we jump into X-Men, I want to cover a few other assholes who do this. One big overarching sort of theme is uber powerful characters that conveniently have no kill codes for some reason. Who's got this shit? Superman, Batman, Spider-Man. And it's such an obvious contrivance. It's like, it's obviously you guys are doing this because you have an ongoing series, and if Superman would kill people, Lex Luthor would be in one comic book. It would be an issue whatever he first appeared in, and then he would never be in any other issue because Superman would melt his brain with his heat vision. And obviously that is the correct answer. I'm sure if I Googled it, Lex Luthor's probably killed more people than Hitler. And the sort of shitty thing about it is, like, there's no real reason why Superman has a no-kill thing. Like, if Superman's smart, he should know that you should kill certain people. If your goal is to save human life, you should kill a mass murderer like Lex Luthor. Like, how many people does he have to kill, and how many times does he have to escape from prison before you sort of realize that the lives of all the innocent people are more valuable than his one psychopath life? Same goes for Batman. Why does Batman have a no-kill? He just fucking does. Why are you fanboys getting all pissed off when he drops his kill code for Batman v Superman? There's no real reason why he would have a no-kill. He's already an illegal vigilante out taking crime in his own hands. It's a contrivance to allow him to not kill his villains so that you don't have to keep writing new characters, so that the story doesn't evolve, so that you don't really have to change anything. It's lazy. No-kill codes are lazy writing for you to earn your paycheck as a writer by just like dusting off your old hat. Think about the show Breaking Bad. What if the characters on that show had no kill codes, and that turned, instead of like a cable modern number of episodes shows, it was like a fucking Saved by the Bell with 26 episodes a season. It's like, I feel like if you were writing that much shit, you would sort of try to make it easy for yourself. No, let's not kill Gus Fring. We'll just bring him back in the next season. It'll write itself. It's fine for you to have a character with a central main reoccurring villain. Like, if you create a character as powerful as Superman, you need to give him a villain that has a reason to be able to survive multiple encounters, especially when you reveal that you're his biggest threat to existence. And Lex Luthor doesn't fucking have that because Superman can kill him in a millisecond. Like, Wolverine pretty much, from what I understand in the comics, has a main villain. It's Sabretooth. And Sabretooth has the same powers Wolverine has. So it makes sense that you would give Wolverine sort of a character that can survive Wolverine's attacks and give out his own threat level to Wolverine. And Spider-Man has a no-kill code. And Spider-Man is insanely powerful. So think about what a punch to the face from someone who can lift a semi-truck over their head. Every time Spider-Man punches somebody and it doesn't leave a Spider-Man fist-size hole in their head, that means he's pulling his punches and not wanting to kill somebody. So why does Spider-Man have a no-kill code? Oh, I don't know. You know what Spider-Man does have? Reoccurring villains that they want to come back over and over and over. So the antithesis, I figured, to all these characters I just brought up would be the Punisher. So who's his main antagonist? I don't even know. I honestly Googled this before talking about it, and nothing really came up. I couldn't even find out who the Punisher's main antagonist is. Punisher's just like nobody. Yeah, he's got a shitload of villains, and when you look them up, most of them are dead because the Punisher killed them, and that makes sense. So back to the X-Men. I'm not really into comic books, so I don't know a whole lot about the comic books, but I'm really into the movies, and I've watched them a stupid amount of time. And one thing after seeing them so much is noticing this issue. So I want to start with the character that is the most powerful, the leader of the X-Men. Basically, what happens in every single story is they create a reason why he can't be as powerful as they wrote him to be. It's like, why even have a character with these powers if the main goal of your storyline is going to be neutering him? In every single movie, save for First Class, that Xavier is in, he gets neutered, his powers get ended so that the story can progress. He is so fucking powerful that if they don't do something to eliminate his ability, the bad guys there's no conceivable way to make them challenging. So let's just go by the numbers. Let's go by every single movie that Xavier is in, and let's talk about how he's neutralized. So in X-Men 1, in the middle of the movie, Mystique puts that green canister on Cerebro, and then it mindfucks the professor into going into a coma conveniently until the final conflict is over. Because why did they need to do that? Let's imagine the X-Men 1 final conflict hadn't they neutralized Xavier. Well, he would have put on Cerebro, and all of Magneto's minions, they would have all been on the X team, because Xavier would have just controlled them, and he could have killed Magneto with Sabretooth by crushing his head off, just like he almost did at the train station. You should have killed me when you had the chance. I literally have the chance every time I put on the Cerebro hat. I can mindfuck any one of your minions to just walk behind you and stab you in the heart. I can just wait for you to take a shower. Do you take a shower with that helmet on, Magneto? Do you sleep with it on? Like, you have to take that fucking thing off at some point. I can wait. I'm a patient guy. I can wait 24 hours to kill my mortal enemy. I think just me sort of chilling in Cerebro in a day for you to just slip that thing off to scratch your head is gonna be worth me saving literally millions of lives, because you killed so many people in X-Men Apocalypse. This is ridiculous. So in X-Men 2, halfway through the movie, he gets gassed when he visits Magneto in the prison, and then he gets mind-fucked by Stryker's son for the rest of the movie. And the fucked up thing about X2, it's like they had to neuter him for X-Men 1 so that they could make the story progress, but they weren't satisfied. Like, they needed to up the ante for X-Men 2. So they revealed the information that Xavier has the ability to kill everyone on planet Earth with Cerebro. All he has to do is put on Cerebro and he can kill somebody. Like, he's already way too powerful for you to use him in the climax of the first film. Why do you feel like you need to add to that and make him even more powerful? Jesus, think about that idea. So he can just focus on Kim Jong-un and kill him at any moment he wanted. He could have ended the Vietnam War. In Days of Future Past, all of his students are going to Vietnam. All he has to do is put on Cerebro real quick and think about the leader of the Viet Cong military and just like kill him. It's like this movie is focused on the struggle of mutants, but Jesus Christ, why do you have to just blow past the most useful thing in the world? And it's just like, oh yeah, it's just this thing to, locate people, and it helps out sometimes when an evil minion doesn't come break it, we can use it. And in X3, they were tired of incapacitating him, so they just fucking killed him halfway through the movie. And again, they added to his powers. Now he can transfer his consciousness over to other bodies. Yeah, they didn't really go into that a whole lot. That just sort of happened. So then we go on to First Class. Yes, I'm skipping over X-Men Origins because nothing really happens there. But First Class is the only movie where nobody is written to be less powerful than they are or stupid or something. Like nobody really has an excuse in First Class to not use their powers when it makes sense for them to use them. And that's why First Class is the one exception to this whole fucking list I'm making. And it is also a great example of why they need to keep neutralizing Xavier, because look at what happened at the end of X-Men First Class. Xavier was in the Blackbird, and he just demolished the plans of the enemy in no time at all. He mind-fucked a couple of random guys who do exactly what he needed them to do to end the conflict in the most effective way possible. And then the very second the bad guy takes off the helmet, he mind-fucked him so long that Magneto had the time to have a evil villain monologue as he killed him in slow motion. Like Xavier Rambo'd the fuck out of X-Men First Class. And I guess they couldn't really write him into being neutered in that movie because that was he was the star of that movie. Wolverine was pretty much the star of all the previous X-Men movies, but if you look at First Class, it was really Xavier who was the star of that one. I guess it was probably Xavier and Magneto, but at the same time, neither of them were neutralized. They were both fucking completely unchained off the hook. There's no time in that movie where you're like, why didn't Xavier use his powers here, or why didn't Magneto use his powers over there? They just fucking used them very well.
And it's bizarre to me why this is the only movie that's treated these characters with a certain amount of respect for their powers. So moving on to X-Men Days of Future Past, Hank has created a serum that gives the Professor Xavier the ability to walk, but it takes away his telepathic ability. Wait a minute, did Hank just come up with a cure for like spinal injuries and paralysis? Is this like another like Cerebro? There's sort of a bigger purpose, so maybe you guys should stop being so selfish and share this with the rest of humanity? Jesus. So right in the heart of the story, we begin with the Professor's power being neutralized. And it continues to be neutralized throughout the whole movie until the very end, when he decides to stop being a heroin addict. And he slowly loses his ability to walk, but he gains his telepathy. Even leading up to the end of the movie, he's not fully back at 100% potential. He's back at 100% potential at like the very fucking end of the movie, when the only two enemies are Magneto and Mystique. And he can't affect Magneto because of Magneto's wearing his helmet. And then he's conveniently not willing to affect Mystique because of their childhood past connection. And I guess somehow he's been trying to control her whole life. And look where that has led us. Like, this makes no sense, Xavier. We're talking about the future of the entire mutant race, and you're willing to put that on the line for the relationship, the non-relationship you have with Mystique? Mystique the murderer? Mystique who's turned her back on you and became friends with your enemy? The day that your enemy caused you to be paralyzed, she left you and joined him, and now you're so concerned about your relationship with her that you're willing to bet the future of your entire race of people, and then like a shitload of humans too, because in Days of Future Past, like that dark future, they also killed a bunch of humans. Like, talk about some contrived, made up bullshit that makes no sense to make sure Xavier can't just use his power. Speaking of which, I want to go back to the beginning of the film when they're talking about who to send back in time, and Kitty Pryde is explaining to them that she can't send the Professor back in time because even though he has the most powerful brain, the mind can only stretch so far and the trip would kill him. So because Wolverine can physically heal, they say that his mind can survive the trip, but that doesn't make any sense because Wolverine needed the Professor's help to regain his memories after they were erased. So if Wolverine's mind could just heal like they're talking about, I guess that doesn't make sense. That's why this is some made-up contrivance with the sole purpose of not allowing Xavier to travel back in time to his old body, wait 12 hours for his telepathy to come back because he stopped taking heroin, and then go in Cerebro and brainwash Boulevard Trask and Mystique into not doing anything that'll cause the dark future. And you can tell that's about as much thought as they gave this whole your mind will rip apart thing, because according to the story, when Wolverine wakes up in 1970, he has just survived an incident that would kill any normal human. And his biggest concern is, why is the bed wiggling? Oh, this is a waterbed. He doesn't even have a headache, because that wasn't really an integral part of the story. That was just, okay, now the Professor's not coming. We can forget about that. So now moving on to X-Men Apocalypse. So here halfway through the movie, they need to destroy Cerebro because Apocalypse took it over, because you can't write a story with that godlike machine. And here's where the sort of inconsistency happens. He's having a psychic conversation with Magneto through Cerebro, and then he realizes Magneto's not alone in the room. So I assume he tried to make a connection with Apocalypse through Cerebro, and that's how Apocalypse got into Xavier's head. He controls Xavier, who in turn controls Cerebro, but then later in the movie he explains how he can't get into people's heads. He can't control them, and that's why he needs the Professor's power.
But to see inside a mind, to control it, that's your gift.
So how was he able to do this? Because Xavier tried to read his mind first? Is that why? You'd think because he has the ability to amplify Xavier's power, he would sort of exploit his ability to control Xavier's power like he did earlier. And after they destroy it, Xavier passes out and they kidnap him. And when he wakes up, he's being psychically blocked by Apocalypse throughout the whole movie.
You're blocking me. How?
I can shield their minds from your power.
He is the victim of a deus ex machina. We can't have Xavier's power because he's so powerful. So let's just explain it away with like one line, because Apocalypse, he has whatever powers the writers need him to have. Had they set this up earlier in the story that Apocalypse had this power, it wouldn't feel so contrived. At least in the other films, when they go out to neutralize Charles, it's like it's a big, important part of the story for the most part. It takes a lot of setup and storytelling to make that happen. Like, it's not just one lazy line. You could have even set it up at the very beginning. Remember when he was doing the first body transfer at the intro of the film? Why just give him the healing power? He should have been taking the psychic blocking power, and that way we already knew he had it, and it would have made sense in a story. Oh, and if we're talking about that, how about instead of him just being betrayed by some random mutant, maybe he's under attack from a telepath who's controlling his minions, and his minions turn on him because they're under somebody else's psychic influence, and that's how he gets buried under the pyramid, and his new power is now the ability to psychic block, and that's why he wants Charles's power so much, because he was just beaten by a telepath. Now that he's protected against this, now he feels he can take over the world. You see how these things can work out well when they're thoughtfully incorporated in a story, not just in some throwaway line? And then at the end, when he's able to finally get into Apocalypse's mind, that whole battle is pointless. That has no impact on what's going on in the movie. At one point, Phoenix shatters him in that psychic world, and he's still defending himself in the real world. Shouldn't that have, like, broken his mind or something? So even if Xavier had beat the shit out of him in that psychic world, he would still be in the real world defending himself and attacking the X-Men. So you could basically edit that whole sequence out of the movie, and it would have no impact. So when they were making this movie, they didn't really consider Xavier's power and influence on the film. They were looking at the script and were like, we need to give Xavier something to do here at the end. We've been blocking him the whole movie. Okay, let's have him have a psychic battle with Apocalypse. All right, and what are the stakes of that? Nothing. It's just about nothing. Cool. Write it. So moving on to Logan, this one should be pretty obvious. The professor, throughout the whole movie, can't control his powers because he's too old. He's got a brain disease. And then he's on medication again that suppresses his powers in order to stop some seizures. It's kind of reminiscent of Days of Future Past. So throughout the movie, he can't control his power at all, save for one scene where he deliberately makes some horses walk out of traffic. And then to top it all off, he gets killed off so that he's not in the final act of the movie. Killed for the second time, pretty much, so that he can't have an effect on the climax of the film. So you might be thinking, hey, he didn't have any powers anyway, so killing him off isn't really to make sure his powers don't have an effect on the final act. But think about what would happen had Xavier been in the final act of Logan, and he had taken that green serum that enhances your ability. All he would need is about 5 seconds to brainwash all of the Reavers into thinking they are an army of 12-year-old girls. Looking ahead, the next movie in the mainline series is X-Men Dark Phoenix, so things might be a little bit better here, because if you're going to have a super powerful good guy, the writing shouldn't be ways to discount that. Instead, you need to have really powerful villains that can handle this good guy, not just contrivances to limit the good guy's power and turn him into something that he's not. It's like trying to have your cake and eat it too. I want to have this incredibly over-the-top, powerful character, and I don't really want to have to think about how that power can fit into a story. Let me know if you like this and if you want to see more X-Men content. I've got a few other things, and I have material to even continue this topic that we're on here. So let me know if you like this, and I'll do more of it.